Hello everyone, I'm Claire, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a combined haul of some nail polishes that I've gotten over the past few months. I posted a video last month showing polishes from Holo Taco and Lacquer, and today I'll be sharing swatches from some Lurid Lacquer and Mooncat orders. Before we get into that, I do just want to mention that I started an Instagram account if you want to follow me over there. It's claire.benevento, linked below. And of course, I would also greatly appreciate if you subscribe to me here on YouTube. But yeah, I have 9 polishes to show you today. I'll be showing swatches of each of them and sharing my thoughts and if they met my expectations. So let's get into it. Starting with Lurid Lacquer, I placed this order when they opened their shop in April for a couple new collections and restocks. They're not a brand that you can order from whenever, only in certain windows of time. I think they're actually open around when I'm posting this video, if you see anything you like that you want to pick up. So the first polish is Steadfast, which was part of the Words to Live By 4-piece set. This polish has a warm purple base and iridescent flakes that shift from red to orange to gold, and a tiny bit of green. A purple base paired with warm-toned shimmer or flakes is definitely a good way to get me interested in polish. I have a few versions of that combo, but nothing quite like this, so I was excited to get it. And the formula was pretty good. I feel like I kind of overworked it on the first coat, so it doesn't look the most even, but it evened out after that. And I was really happy with the number of flakes on the nail after 2 coats. I feel like in some of the swatches on the website, the flakes look a little sparse, so I had kind of assumed that those swatches were in 2 coats, and I would need to do 3 to get a higher density of flakes, but there were actually plenty after 2. I did still do 3 coats to build up the base, since there was some sheerness there after 2 coats, but if you don't mind the sheerness or you have shorter nails, you might not need the 3rd. And I really enjoy this polish. It lived up to my expectations. I love that warm purple base and how the flakes interact with it. I feel like this will be a good fall polish because the color of the flakes always makes me think of changing leaves, but I might end up wearing it before then too. And as far as I know, Lurid still has stock of this one left over from launch if you're interested in picking it up. Next we've got the Cardboard Queen. This polish was created to celebrate Lurid's 1st anniversary, since the brand owner Karen says that she's ended up dealing with more cardboard than she ever thought she would since starting the brand. So it has a cardboard colored light brown jelly base and then a shimmer that shifts from purple to red, or I could also see it being described as a cool toned pink to a warm toned pink. And it's another one with a good formula. I did find it to be slightly thicker than the other shimmers I've gotten from Lurid, but not in a way that made it difficult to apply, and it did self-level well. It is a fairly sheer polish, which I expected from the swatches. You can see in the first coat that it just gave a little bit of a tint to my nails, but the color did build up with the 2nd and 3rd coats. It gets to the point where I can't look at the polish and clearly see my nail line the way that I can with some super sheer polishes, but in certain lighting conditions I can see light through my free edge, like if I hold my hand up to the window or something. Again, that is about the level of opacity that I expected from the swatches on the website, but if you're someone who prefers totally opaque polishes, then you might not be happy with it. But overall, I really like it. I enjoy brown polish, but most of the ones that I have are darker, so it's nice to have this more mid-toned one. Plus the shimmer is really pretty. And I did compare it to cardboard just to see. I wouldn't say that it's a perfect match, at least with the cardboard that I have, but that's partly because cardboard has more of a speckled appearance and isn't a totally uniform color. And it's close enough that if I look at the polish on its own, I do think of cardboard, which is fun. And as far as I know, this one is also still available. The next polish is Brunhilda. I don't know the whole story behind this polish, like how it got its name or anything. On the listing, it just says that it was a prototype for the September 2024 gift with purchases, and that it's also a charity polish with $3 per bottle going to various charities. But it was still around into this year. I noticed it in February when I placed my first Lurid order, but I decided not to get it then because I was ordering a mystery prototype in the Prugly Green with Purple Shimmer category, and I thought that that might end up being too similar to Brunhilda. But once I got that polish and it had a very sheer base that was a brighter shade of green with that pink purple shimmer, I thought Brunhilda would be different enough to warrant having both, especially because I do enjoy a good swampy green. It's described as a khaki green that shifts from reddish pink to orange to gold, and it has a really nice formula, goes on super smoothly and evenly. I would say the sheerness level is similar to the Cardboard Queen, where depending on the lighting, it might look opaque or you might be able to see through it a little bit. So far, this is the one polish from my order that I've had the chance to wear, and I really enjoyed it. I know some people might put this in the Prugly category, but I love the shade of green and the shimmer is really pretty, so I think it's a gorgeous polish. I don't think it's currently available, but if they restock it at some point, it's definitely one that I recommend. And then the last polish that I got was actually not one that I ordered, it was a gift with purchase. I know different brands do gift with purchases differently, where sometimes you get it if you're one of the first people to order or if you spend a certain amount. But Lurid, for this launch at least, just added them to orders at random, which is kind of nice. I feel like that cuts back on the FOMO because there's not anything that you can do either way. You don't have to order right away or meet a certain threshold. And then the gift with purchase polishes will eventually be available to order as regular polishes. They're not available with the launch that's happening around the time that I posted this video because Lurid's order from their bottle supplier was delayed, but they should be available next launch. And there were 4 different gift with purchase polishes, 3 of which were based on the most requested prototypes from Lurid's mystery prototype sale. Like, they had a form where you could say which ones you'd like to see become regular polishes. One of them was based on prototype 238, now known as an indoor cat with outdoor dreams. I feel like that describes my cat. And that's actually one of the prototypes that I had gotten with my last order. So I had a moment of being like, am I an influencer? Did people request that polish because they saw it in my video? Anyway, when I got my Lurid order and was opening up the bubble mailer, I was like, seems like there might be an extra polish in here. And I pulled them out and there was an extra, and I could see through the bubble wrap that it was green. So I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I got a gift with purchase that I already have as a prototype? But then I opened it, and it was not the polish based on prototype 238. It was the one based on prototype 286, and it's called Borkzilla, which is a top-tier name. It's inspired by the maker's dog Lola, which I love. This is a neon green polish, and it has orange to yellow shimmer, which I found was stronger on the nail than I expected it to be based on how it looked in the bottle. The formula was alright, similar opacity to the other shimmer polishes. It was slightly on the thicker side, and also didn't self-level quite as well as I wanted it to. I feel like in certain lighting you can see a little bit of unevenness near my cuticle, so it's one you want to be careful not to overwork and create thin spots. But I also might have just run into the issue that happens when I don't let my coats dry long enough, and the first coats can get disrupted by the later ones. So it's not a bad formula by any means, just the slightest bit finicky. And that could also be because it's a neon. It's my first neon, and so I don't really know how they usually act. But I feel like I've heard that they can behave differently than polishes with other pigments. If you have more experience with this type of polish, please let me know in the comments what's normal. But yeah, I'm not someone who necessarily seeks out neon polishes. I've never bought one before, so it's kind of nice to be able to try one without buying it. And I do like it. The bright green is super fun, and I like the shimmer too. I know a lot of people associate neons with summer, but I think this could also be fun for Halloween. And it reminds me of a polish pickup shade, I think Sour Apple Rings from Atomic Polish, which was getting a lot of attention last year if I remember right. So if you missed out on that, or you just like this polish based on my swatch, then you can keep an eye out for when it's available to purchase. So yeah, that was my Lurid order. Overall, I'm very happy with it. I feel like my first order from them was a lot of reflective glitters, and this one was more focused on shimmers, but Lurid does all these formulas well, and as always, I'm looking forward to seeing more from them. Alright, if I look a little different, it's because it's a different day. My neighbors were making some noise the other day while I was filming. I don't know how much of it actually picked up, hopefully not too much, but you might have been able to hear some laundry noises in the background. Either way, I got tired of trying to work around it, so I took a break, but now I'm back. So moving on to the Mooncat polishes, these are from 2 separate orders. The first one I placed during their lunar sale, and I got 3 polishes and a bunch of top coat. So first we've got Jewel Beetle from the Fallen collection that came out last September. That is probably my favorite Mooncat collection. I got 4 of the polishes from it during Black Friday, and Jewel Beetle didn't make the cut for that order, but I kept thinking about it, so I got it this time. Jewel Beetle is a multi-chrome where the main colors you see are pink, green, and gold, and you know I love a green-pink color combo. I have the polish The Observer's Paradox from Lurid, and that's a green-pink duochrome, but it's much more muted, so this is the brighter, more shifty version. And it has a great formula, goes on very evenly, though it is a bit sheer in the first coat. I would say it looks pretty good after 2 coats, but I did a third to get more opacity. Like with all multi-chromes, there are going to be some slight visible brushstrokes, but as long as you're careful with application on the last coat, they're not too noticeable. So I really like this one, I love the colors, and I'm happy with the coverage. And if I can just say something about multi-chromes, I feel like when I got into this hobby and started buying polish and painting my nails less than 2 years ago, I learned a lot from watching other creators, and they helped me form opinions on different things. And I feel like a lot of them would say things like, oh, multichromes are fine, but they're not that special, they're a dime a dozen, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. I'm exaggerating a bit, but that was the general sentiment. And it's true to an extent because there is a limited number of multichrome pigments available for brands to use, so you see a lot of the same colors from different brands, and the only thing that will set them apart is maybe opacity or quality of the formula. So because of how they were talked about, I was a little bit down on multichromes, but I've realized that I actually do really like them. Like, yeah, there might be several polishes out there that use the same pigment as Jewel Beetle, and so I don't need multiple, but that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy having Jewel Beetle. I understand why some people might not get excited about multichromes, especially after being in this hobby for longer, but I like them. Let me know in the comments if there are any types of polish that you like, even though they aren't the most popular. Next is Such Sweet Sorrow from the Broken collection earlier this year. For the most part, I wasn't too excited by that collection, but I enjoyed that this polish was a bit darker than the others, which were more pastel. The base color is kind of a muted navy, and it has chromy purple shimmer that shifts to yellow. And I honestly wasn't too impressed by this one when I swatched it. Like, it has a nice formula and everything, it went on smoothly, but it was a bit more sheer than I expected, even in 3 coats. Kind of on par with the Lurid shimmers from earlier, when I thought it would be more opaque because of the darker color. And I just really wasn't enjoying how it looked. It's not even necessarily the sheerness that bothered me. It's more that after I swatched this one, I looked at it in direct sunlight, and that just isn't the optimal lighting for certain types of shimmers. With this one, it kind of made the shimmer disappear, except in the very center of the nail, so all that was really visible was the blue base, which was just not that impressive on its own. So I thought I was going to come to this review and talk about how I probably shouldn't have gotten this one because I only liked it in comparison to what it was released with, similar to what I said about the Lacquer Polish Celestial in my last haul video. But then I actually wore it on my left hand for a week because I wanted to wear a purple for my sister's graduation, and I ended up really liking it. The shimmer is super pretty in lower lighting. It has a very strong shift to yellow, and I don't have any other polishes with a purple to yellow shimmer, so that was fun to see. It was just way more shifty than I was expecting, very shiny, very glowy. I definitely looked at my nails a lot while I had this on. The way that it looked in the sun after I swatched it just isn't how it looked most of the time, so I'm glad that I gave it a chance and realized how pretty it is. And then last from that order was Into the Abyss, which I got with rewards points. It's a navy blue cream and not something that was necessarily on my radar, but I had a lot of points and I didn't like any of the other points redemption options, so I thought I might as well. And I have been interested in trying Mooncat's cream formula. I just hadn't gotten around to it because their creams are on the expensive side and there weren't any colors I was super drawn to. But since it was basically free and I don't have a dark blue cream, I went for it. And I really enjoyed the formula. I mostly have experience with hollow taco creams, which are very thick, and this one wasn't as thick, but it was still very opaque and it went on very smoothly. Like on camera, it looks good after the first coat, but I could see some thin spots in person, so I went in with a second coat and that took care of it. I also like the color. It's dark, but not so dark that it looks black. I can still see those blue tones, so I'm happy to have this one. I don't wear creams on their own very often, but this will be a good base for toppers and maybe even for a couple of full coverage polishes. Like if I want a more opaque version of Such Sweet Sorrow, I could put it over this. Or that Lacquer polish I mentioned earlier is also kind of sheer, but it has a navy base, so I feel like it could work with Into the Abyss. I don't necessarily see myself getting more Mooncat creams, but I'll definitely get some use out of this one. So the other order I placed was in May. That's when Mooncat officially announced their price increase, and they gave us a few days notice to place any final orders before it went into effect. Also, I did talk a bit more about their price increase in my last video if you'd like to hear my thoughts. I wasn't necessarily planning to place another order after the sale, but I was like, well, I don't know when I'll be shopping Mooncat again, and I have a lot of rewards points, so I might as well use those while there are some options that I like. If you don't know, when you get Mooncat's rewards points, you can redeem them on specific polishes, and the options change every month. And because I don't always like the options that are there when I place an order, I had built up enough points to get 2 free polishes. I did have to actually purchase something in order to redeem my points, so I got a bottle of top coat, but it was still a pretty good deal. The first polish I got was Flight of the Monarchs. I feel like this is one of those Mooncat classics like House of Hades that get recommended a lot, though now that I think about it, it might be mostly Linry who I've heard talk about this one. And I did always think it was pretty, but I wasn't planning to buy it since I have a similar Mooncat shade that I got before I heard the hype for this one. Flight of the Monarchs has a light purplish pink base, which gets pretty overpowered by some very glowy orange to gold shimmer, and I already had Take Me to Your Leader, which has a similar description except that it's darker, and the base shows a bit more. So I didn't feel like I could justify buying Flight of the Monarchs, but since it was basically free, I went ahead and got it. And I have to say, I'm a little conflicted. I actually had a similar experience with this as I did with Such Sweet Sorrow, where the formula was really good, but sheerer than I expected. Again, I've heard Linry talk about this one a lot, and she doesn't tend to like sheer polishes, so I thought it would be more opaque, and it does look opaque in some lighting, but like the other shimmers today, there are times that you can see through it. But at the same time, it is still pretty. I do really like the shimmer, and I kind of feel like once I actually wear it and have it on my nails for longer in different lighting, then I'll enjoy it more, like with Such Sweet Sorrow. So I don't regret picking it up, even if it wasn't love at first sight. And then the last polish is Loch Ness, which is a navy blue linear hollow. I actually already had a blue linear hollow, Blue Freezy from Holo Taco, but that one is brighter and I feel like it doesn't have the best hollow flare compared to other linears that I have. So I got this one as an alternative. I actually ended up mixing a little of each together, but you can watch the short I made showing the process to hear a little bit more about why I did that. For now, I'll just focus on Loch Ness. In the first coat, it was a bit more sheer than I'm used to from darker linear hollows. I have some from Holo Taco that are very opaque, but it still had a nice formula, it went on smoothly and self-leveled and all that, and it actually built up better than I expected in 2 coats. I could have done a third to get it totally opaque, but it just didn't feel necessary. So I like this one. The hollow flare is pretty strong in the right lighting, and I also like the color. It's slightly muted, but still very blue. I feel like I'm more likely to wear this one than I am to wear Blue Freezy, since that one is kind of bright for my preferences. It has its uses when I'm going for a specific color scheme, but Loch Ness is one that I would wear just because. So those are the Mooncat polishes. I'm also pretty happy with those orders and glad I was able to get them in before the price increase. I enjoy Mooncat, but I'll almost certainly be waiting for a sale to get anything else from them, and also waiting for them to release more polish I like, because their collections this year have not been my favorite. You can hear me talk about that more in last week's video. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you today. Thank you to everyone who's watching till the end. You can let me know in the comments if you have a favorite from the polishes that I showed today, or if you've gotten or worn anything fun lately. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would leave me a like, or maybe even subscribe. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!